Sometimes we forget why we're here. It's easy to fall off track. These help us remember.
These battle scars don't look like they're faded, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battles.
Growing up I had a dream, something no one else could see. Tell me what it means when your faith is falling beneath your knees and you can't breathe. Everything you see reminds you of what you're not or something you won't be. You gotta take what you're given, that's how we live it. Don't be mad at the system, it's simply how we've existed. I hear a lot of people talking like they politicians and choose to be an accountant because it's safe in the business. Not because they wanna do it, just because they heard it pays. And who the fuck wants to be poor knowing that's how we've been raised? Society is getting heavy, I can feel the weight. The pressure of success is like 100 million pounds of shame. And that's the reason I'm staying up late, trying to find a way to escape the stereotypes this day and age is making me feel like the only way I'll be happy is getting signed to a label and making money through rapping. I wanna share my emotion because this world is attacking the very principle of life that lets the people be happy. If you don't have a reason to breathe, why even live? These battle scars are impressions of everything that it is.
Don't look like they're faded, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battle scars don't look like they're faded, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battles.
Now, if I had a voice that reached 100 million people, I'd tell them there's a reason that we're all created equal. Cause some decide to be great and some decide a sequel to an average person's life is simply what they want to be. So you make your decision, all I know is what I'm given. Won't define the life I lead or the way I dwell in existence. I've seen a greater image on the walls of where I'm living, and the words twisted and scripted remind me of something written. Faith is a gift that is given down to the people. If one believes it, one receives it. It's given if it is needed. Don't ever think you're trapped in a life that you never wanted. Your options are infinite, that's some mathematical logic. I'm not saying I'm a prophet, I'm speaking for what it's worth. These lyrics define my prayers and these battle scars on my church. Not saying I'm a prophet, I'm speaking for what it's worth. These lyrics define my prayers, these battle scars on my church.
Don't look like they're faded, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battle scars don't look like they're faded, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battles.
Okay, hello everyone. Man, this pimple has gotten out of control. I don't look at I live a weird life when I'm not going into an office. I just wander around like the ghost of Christmas past. How are you all doing? I'm sorry for this pimple. And also a missing nail. You can tell I'm kind of like in bad shape today. I'm missing a nail on this hand. I'm missing 3 nails on this hand. I've had a little bit of a COVID setback. Not COVID itself, but the fatigue. I haven't given myself enough time to rest, and I crashed pretty hard today. And it probably will show in my voice and my demeanor, and just I look a little bit haggard. The fatigue is the worst part. But we're going to be doing tonight just a little recap on what to expect tomorrow tomorrow, the 28th, right? For people who are watching this later, for the Judicial Committee hearing tomorrow. If you've come expecting high drama, that's not what this is going to be. This is intended to be pretty just educational so that everyone can meaningfully watch the hearing tomorrow and understand what's going on. So I would love to answer any questions that you have. Let's do some preliminaries first. First of all, I guess some people, because I get this question quite frequently, is people are very interested in my weird-ass t-shirt collection. So what I am wearing today says horror movie, and it's 2 chickens watching another chicken get microwaved. Yes, I am twisted. which is why I am all here for Elon Musk buying Twitter, because he seems pretty twisted too. I've got a very dark sense of humor. It's how I deal with a lot of trauma. Before also we get started, I just got 2 new patrons. Thank you very much. I don't have my normal grifting along the bottom, but if you would like to become a patron, it does keep shows like this going, and it's patreon.com/Pink Flame of Liberty. Right now I'm in high gear for Reno, so the grifting that is on the screen is for, and I will answer your question, Tyler, because there is a JC candidate in our chat right now. I'm in high gear for Reno. Good news, and I have permission to use the name now, though I'm probably going to mangle the name, and I am so sorry if I do. Kathy Yaniskevich of Arizona has donated the funds to buy the pink lanyards to give away as convention swag. So thank you very much, Kathy. And if you happen to know Kathy, if you could thank her, those will be available at my campaign table. Also, which will be available if you catch me beforehand or at my campaign table, will be, let me pull this up on screen if I can, name badges. Now, I know the convention committee is doing name badges. Oh, and Kathy's here. I'm glad I finally got... I was practicing it, believe it or not, because I always feel bad when I mispronounce people's names. The convention committee, obviously, for those who paid for at least a minimum pass, is producing name badges. For those of you, though, who aren't paying, because you can attend business for free, don't let them tell you otherwise, but you don't get a name badge. Even though I have a package, I refuse to wear a Phantom of the Opera fraudulent, sold the members a bait and switch for what Liberty Unmasked was supposed to be about. So in protest, I'm going to be printing out name badges for anyone who wants them at no cost, that will have this graphic on it in some way. I'm putting it up on the screen. The good Liberty Unmasked graphic. Let me stick this up here. So if you would like a name badge that contains that graphic rather than the Phantom of the Opera one, shoot me an email and I will have one pre-printed for you. Let me let you know something. I already knew I was going to print one for myself, so I kind of on a lark just threw this offer out there, and oh my goodness, the response has been tremendous. Convention committee, you should be taking note. But what I am so proud of is this is the members taking back control. So while I didn't mean this as some kind of like campaign promo, and it's not, it's just that's the table I happen to have that I've paid for. Like, wow. Like, I'm going to have a bunch of people stopping at my table just to pick up their free name badge, because they don't want that Phantom of the Opera thing. Again, the name badge by itself will have nothing about my campaign on it. You do not need to be a supporter of mine. This is just my gift to the party. The lanyards, if you want a pink one, it is going to be pre-printed with a campaign slogan on it. But obviously, you can get the regular, I'm not sure what the convention committee is providing for a lanyard, and then use the name badge you pick up from me. So, wow, like I didn't expect this to be so popular, but let me know, and I'll have one waiting for you at convention. Also, tinyurl.com/Pink Flame merch is where you can get a t-shirt. There we go. With that logo on it. I would love to see a lot of those because, again, the one from the convention committee is terrible. I'm Dave Davis. I don't happen to have their logo handy, and it causes cats to howl everywhere whenever I show it. Maybe somebody here could stick a link up. The backstory is that members voted to have Liberty Unmasked as our slogan. It was in the midst of mandates, so it was obvious what the members meant by Liberty Unmasked. But instead, the convention committee decided to turn it into like Phantom of the Opera, like it's the tragedy comedy face mask, which has nothing to do with what the members voted for. And they go, well, we reinterpreted that slogan to mean, basically, they turned it into a gay rights thing. Now, I am a member myself of a minority sexuality community, so I'm very pro LGBT plus. There's no offense to that. I think having a gay rights slogan for a convention is a wonderful idea. That is not what the members voted for. And this was a vote with your dollars type thing. So I consider it fraudulent to do a bait and switch like this. So a independent designer, John Thompson, designed this logo. I did not design it. So he gave me permission to use it. At my merch store, if you buy any merchandise with this logo on it, I split half of the proceeds with the designer. And he's been very grateful because it's been successful beyond my wildest imagination. I think that's all I have for the grifting right now. We're going to move on to talk about Massachusetts. I'm sorry, my voice is very weak. As I said, I've had a little bit of a relapse today. Okay, let me answer Tyler's question first. There are good JC candidates. I don't have the entire list of the ones that are being endorsed by the Mises Caucus. I do know that one of them is Mike Seebeck, who is my co-host of Cult of RONR. Many of you know him. He's always wearing the tie-dye. He's in chat right now. He's also one of the top sponsors of this show. And I'm sure he'll be glad to answer any questions you have. I heartily endorse Mike for Judicial Committee. Also, the other two that are coming to mind right away, I apologize that I'm not remembering everyone's name, is Mark Montoni. He's another party veteran, and he also would be fantastic. A lot of you know Mark, and he used to be from Virginia. He now lives in Colorado, and there was a running joke where his friend Nick Dunbar worked at National and changed the national database to say Rabbi Mark Montoni just as a joke, and it has stuck now for decades. So everyone still calls him Rabbi Mark Montoni, and people, like, some people believe he really, I don't know if Mike was at this meeting, but I was at this Colorado Convention Committee meeting where I was talking to credentials, and I go, be sure to put Rabbi on Mark's name badge. And this convention committee member was so excited. He didn't realize it was a joke. Mark's a rabbi? Oh my God, I need to talk to a rabbi so bad. And I just started cracking up. I wish I could have kept a straight face. But anyway, one of my fondest memories is when Tyler, she's not an endorsed candidate, and I'm going to leave it at that. I don't want this to be a negative show whatsoever. As far as I know, she's not an endorsed candidate. Me personally, I'm not going to make any comments on any JC members. It's not in any current JC members. It's not to the benefit of this show right now, where we want the JC to do the right thing. So I'm going to keep my comments very, very neutral. Alicia's opinion on Delaware was fantastic. Let's just leave things at that. I forgot where I was. Oh, so Mark Montoni. But one of my dearest memories is when Mark first moved to Colorado. He gets up to the microphone at a Colorado convention and people are shouting, "Let the rabbi speak," which was just hilarious. And, oh my God, I'm drawing a blank. Oh crap. Forgive me, Washington. Oh, crap. He's a former chair of the Radical Caucus. I can't remember. Oh my God. I'm just having an old moment. The name will come to me. But I'm sure all of these endorsements will be released. Oh my God, I am so embarrassed. Somebody in chat will remember. But yes, there are some really good JC candidates. Unfortunately, Mary Rohr is not rerunning. I'm very sad. I'm very sad about that. Rob Stratton. Whew. It came to me. Woof. Okay, and there we go. Okay. So what's going on for tomorrow? I'm going to have to give a little bit of a background, and I do want questions, and we will look at some filings. I'm sorry that some of this background will be repetitive to those of you who have been following along all along. Not everybody who's watching this stream has been following all along. Yes, Jason, to answer your question, and we will address that as well. So, the brief background, and I know there are Massachusetts, and wait, what do I need to pronounce? What's it? Worcester? Did I get it right? Okay, I know there are Massachusetts people in chat. Please correct me if I get anything wrong or if I forget a vital detail. I'm not at my best today. The background is... Actually, the background is my removal, believe it or not. It does really go all the way back to that as a waterfall. But my removal set up a culture in the party where people could start saying, oh, we need a code of conduct where we can remove people and say words are violence. If you say a word I don't like, it's as if you pulled a gun on me type of thing. Let me remove that Liberty Unmasked. I didn't mean to keep that up there the whole time. So what the LNC did with me kind of set up permission for people to start behaving that way. And the board in Massachusetts at the time was chaired by Ashley Shade. And I'm only doing that for identification. I'm not laying any of this at the feet of any one specific person. I'm just doing this to try to help people identify the players. They decided they were going to pass a very authoritarian, or try to pass a very authoritarian code of conduct. That included things like you can't criticize the board, or you can't criticize other libertarians. And already, like, you can see the problems. And it was going to be very selectively, applied. But it was a very alarming turn of events. And they were going to stick it into the bylaws. And at that time, a member had already been expelled from Massachusetts. The very, very mean bird. Very mean bird. Hold on. To the gulag with the mean bird. Okay, back. So, at the time, Rothbardian on Twitter had already been expelled from the Massachusetts party. Part of the reason for her expulsion was she allegedly violated the NAP through words by saying she was going to, on social media, troll the state committee. They expelled her, in part, for that, and said that was a violation of the NAP. Which is ridiculous. No matter what you think about trolling, it's not a violation of the NAP. So, members were watching this going on. So they didn't need to guess how this code of conduct would be applied. They already had a real life example of it with the very mean bird, who, by the way, just for reference sake, I ended up staying in the Mean Bird's Nest when I visited Massachusetts back in December. And I don't know how public her name is, so that's why I'm just using Rothbardian and Mean Bird and all of that. Also for the lulz. But we're talking about the most adorable, tiny woman. Like, really? You were threatened by her? Her words hurt you? I mean, really ridiculous. And, by the way, an immigrant. So I guess in the Oppression Olympics, saying you're going to troll takes away your privileged status of being like a literal immigrant, okay? And had a vagina. Those are two bingo boxes on the oppression scorecard. I don't know, like, you know, what else she may have on the oppression scorecard. But it was just ridiculous. If you've ever met her, she's a sweetheart. Like, listen, we're talking not about like me or Dave Casey, who everyone knows are assholes. Joke, Dave. It's a joke. You know, this joke will live forever. Hopefully Dave's in the stream. Because I always find it funny, like, when I'm watching a show and the host mentions me, I'm like, well, oh, yes. And she's Jewish as well. So, yeah, they expelled an immigrant Jewish woman for saying she was going to troll on Twitter. Pardon me, but that's kind of what Twitter is for. Anyway, so that's the backdrop for this code of conduct. Members did not need to guess how it would be applied. They had a real life example. And they went from like 0 to expulsion. Okay? So members knew that those who were not friends with the state committee or who said things that the state committee didn't like were going to be targeted for expulsion. That was not an unreasonable paranoid fear. They already had a real life example. So, under the Massachusetts, which we'll just call llama for now, and when we're distinguishing between, well, we'll get there. Let's just say llama for now. Under the llama constitution, there is a right of members to call a special convention. As long as there's certain requirements, a certain number of dues-paying members' signatures have to be affixed, and an agenda has to be submitted with the request for the special convention. And according to the llama constitution, the state committee then must call the special convention. It's not a may. It's a must. It's not optional. Because members saw the writing on the wall, they they petitioned for a special convention in order to have a recall election of the state committee. Members at the special convention could have said, we're fine with the state committee, and re-elected them all. The state committee lost their ever-loving shit when they got this petition. And they tried all kinds of ways to avoid it. First, trying to redefine membership, then claiming the agenda was out of order, which I'm not even going to argue about. Let's pretend they even had a point. They couldn't just unilaterally declare that at a state committee meeting. They would have had to have called the special convention, then declared the agenda out of order, and allowed the members to appeal the ruling of the chair. That's a whole other procedural thing. Just letting you know. But finally, they decided on the perfect solution. The Libertarian solution. They're like, these 47 people, by the way, signed this petition. They said, you know what? We're just going to expel them all from the party. In one motion. For signing a petition.
Objection, speculative. I
wish I were exaggerating. Because I'm a very dramatic person. I can exaggerate with the best of them. So that's why I always have to tell you guys, I really am not exaggerating here. And if you go listen, because there's been already some LNC meetings about this topic, and you listen to Chris Crawford's own words, it's quite chilling. And she basically admitted that it was a dragnet approach because they wanted to throw out everyone in Massachusetts from the state party that was a Mises Caucus member. That was their ultimate goal. And Chris Crawford actually said, I should have gotten the sound bite here. Well, why did you just expel these 47 signatories? She goes, well, it isn't as if the Mises Caucus was going to give us their membership list. And like she said this, like this was a reasonable, sane thing. And as if it should just be like, well, obviously, derp. My God. So they admit it. They admit that this was because they didn't like a particular point of view, not for any particular breaking of any rules, and pre-crime. Let's just pretend that the Mises Caucus is the boogeyman everyone says. No libertarian should think that merely being a member of a group and not having proactively done anything, even if you think that group is terrible, is cause for expulsion. This is pre-crime. It is so dystopian craziness. And as I said, you know, I am a connoisseur of party history. I can't claim to be an expert. I don't think I'll ever be an expert. But I do study a lot of it. And this is one of the worst. This is worse than my expulsion, which I have obviously a lot of feels about. And for me to say that, I hope that strikes home to you guys. Like, this was even more tyrannical than my expulsion. Because at least my expulsion was just me, and they could point to specific words I personally said they didn't like. Now, expelling people over words, that's not libertarian. But I wasn't expelled. I was removed from a position. They would have expelled me, though, if they could have. But to expel 47 people for merely signing a recall petition, which libertarians do in government, like local government, all the time. So I wonder if they would be okay with the United States government deporting people who were trying to replace government officials. Because that's the analogy. Of course, it doesn't walk on all fours. Mr. Literal is, you know, I know Mr. Pedantry's out there going, but actually...
Objection, speculative.
That is the analogy to what happened. So that's brought you kind of not as rapidly as I'd like up to speed. So these 47 members are expelled in one secret motion that they were not given notice of. And they still don't even know the specific charges against them individually, because there's never been any individual charges. Were expelled from the party in January, I believe. And that's how the state committee got away with not having the convention. However, JJ brought up an important point that we can argue in the future to the Judicial Committee. Let's pretend the expulsions were valid. They still would have to call the special convention because those people were validly members at the time the petition was signed and presented to the state committee. A later expulsion has no bearing on that. Oopsie! That's a whole other thing. Like, these people are not I try to just stick to issues and say, that when people like have a weird point of view on a certain political issue, I go, oh, that idea is not libertarian. I very rarely am going to say what I'm saying now. It's a rare thing for me to say. I hope it has weight then when I say it. The board at that time that expelled 47 people for merely signing a petition are not libertarians by any stretch of the imagination. And one of them have already proven that by going to the Democrat Party where they belong. I don't know where the rest of them belong, but certainly not in leadership of a libertarian party. And by the way, I'd like to address the Rage Quit bingo card. There is a meme. A meme. Memes are violence. That is a joke going around because, you know, when people have been hurt, they deal with it by joking. Have you guys seen the joke meme that I passed around about my expulsion? No, expulsion's the wrong word. Excuse me. I haven't been expelled. About my illegitimate removal. That is the fake Pornhub thing that says pink-haired MILF gets effed by the entire LNC. Okay? That's how I dealt with my personal pain. By making jokes. The expelled people in Massachusetts, they made jokes. So there was this joke. It's a good football. There's a joke going around of this meme that's a bingo card, kind of. It's not even like a real bingo card because it has more squares. Yes, I have weaponized autism. That's entitled Rage Quit Bingo. And it's got a bunch of names of state committee members on it. And you want to know what else is on the card? The entirety of the Cato Institute. Listen, people. If you see a meme that has as one of the options the entirety of the Cato Institute, and you take it seriously, we're not laughing with you, we're laughing at you. Okay? Dude, get a grip. Like, really. That is barking moonbat material. To get butthurt over a meme that includes an option, the entirety of the Cato Institute. It's like, we used to joke about Canadians all the time on a theology forum I used to own. So on all, you know, if you've ever been a member of a V Bulletin forum, you know how you can fill out your profile, you know, and you have, you know, just whatever various interests you have. For every option, we had Canadian as a separate option, just as a joke. So when it said, and this is before, please don't make this into a whole transgender debate or anything like this. We're talking about 15, 20 years ago. Okay? I'm not even going there. I'm just trying to explain to you how if somebody took this seriously be all butthurt Canadian, it would have been funny. So, question, gender, male, female, Canadian. Religion, because it was a religious forum or religious denomination. Methodist, Baptist, Presbyterian, Canadian. Political leanings, conservative, you know, liberal, whatever, Canadian. Like every single option just had Canadian on it. Just as a joke. And if somebody took that seriously, that's like taking the Rage Quit bingo seriously when it has as an option the entirety of the Cato Institute. Could you guys modify that for me? And just as a tribute to me, put the entirety of Canada. Just as a... Actually, and we would never call Canada, on my old forum, Canada. We called them Canada. Because we blamed them for Nickelback. And I think that... And Justin Bieber. And I think that's a perfectly legitimate complaint. Though they did give us Gordon Lightfoot, who I adore. But anyway... these are the type of people we are dealing with that take themselves very seriously. Like, they're assholes. Like, they are champions at the asshole puckering competition. Like, if that was an Olympic event, man, they'd get the gold medal right there. Okay? Yes, blame Canada for everything. That's my rule. It's like, people, come on. Take, like, ha-ha humor. Maybe you've heard of it. Where was I before I got off on ragging on Canada for a while? Sorry, Canada. I really do like you, eh? Let's have a pop. All right. I have no idea what I'm talking about either. Keep Arkansas legal. So they were expelled. And the state committee thought, okay, well, done with that. Like, nobody would care. And when people from outside of Massachusetts complained, they were like, it's not your business. Yes, it is. It is our business. When tyrants have seized control and are expelling members, it is our business. I find it funny that when a bunch of wokeitarians are claiming that the oppression of a group of people isn't the business of people because they happen to live outside an arbitrary line in the sand. Make it make sense. Okay? Do I I thought I had that sound clip. God, I'm such a terrible, I thought I had to make it make sense. Didn't I? Apparently, yeah, here we go.
Make it make sense.
Okay? Make it make sense.
Objection, speculative.
I'm sorry, that'll never get old. So, that's where I entered the picture. And I was retained as parliamentarian to represent specifically one of the purged members who, I don't even know how to word this. So my specific client has been Brody. It's well known. But with Brody's permission, I've been assisting the entire group of 47, with Brody kind of being like the spokesperson, at least with me, on that. So that's how I got involved. And in order to try to resolve this, I wrote, on behalf of Brody and other purged members, several letters with opinions, parliamentary opinions, to the state committee. And they ignored them. I mean, at least when I was representing Tyler in New Mexico and wrote their board about their illegal convention in January, at least I got a response. I mean, it was a basically go pound sand, we're not going to talk to you response, but at least it was a response. They just completely ignored it in Massachusetts, and then went on a social media smear campaign against these 47 people. So it wasn't enough to just expel them. They then had to just completely defame them entirely on social media. Now, to answer the question that might be on some people's minds, no, not everybody who signed this petition was a member of the Mises Caucus. There is such a thing as just your average, everyday concerned member who didn't like the direction the board was going in, and maybe would have even voted to retain the board. They just felt that the issues were important enough that members deserved to decide for themselves. I don't know the numbers. Maybe some people would know in chat how many were Mises, how many weren't. I don't know. I just know that they weren't all Mises, but they were all just purged. There were multiple attempts to resolve this. Multiple attempts. And in chat, Paul said it was about 50-50 Mises, non-Mises. Obviously, just a guesstimate. The 47 purged members made multiple good faith attempts to try to resolve this. All they wanted was their special convention, which they were entitled to have under the Constitution. They got in touch with the LNC to ask for the LNC's assistance in, at a minimum, advertising this special convention. Because at this point, the 47 expelled people weren't saying that the state committee wasn't the state committee. They were still the state committee because the special convention hadn't happened yet. Let's try to speed things up a little bit. So the LNC declined to help. They did their hemming and hawing. Multiple of them, I don't know if this was on the list or on social media. Anyone who knows can say in chat, express support for what Massachusetts had done. So then we came up to the date of the special convention, which I believe was February 13th, close to that. And because they wanted as many people to know about this convention and come to it and have a voice, including the current state committee, everyone who was a Massachusetts member was invited. They had their convention and they moved to adjourn to February 26th in order to give more time to get the word out more, and also to continue to try to resolve the issue with the state committee and to ask for assistance from the LNC, of which they basically got too bad, so sad from the LNC. So the state convention, the special member convention, went forward. You know, the two segments of it. A new board was elected. One of the first acts now is where we'll have to distinguish between the two groups. And even though I know Ashley Shade has since resigned, that's a whole, we're not going to get into all of that. Just for simplicity's sake, we're going to call the old state committee the Shade Board, and we're going to call the new board elected at the special convention the Cordio Board for Andrew Cordio. One of the first things the Cordio Board did was set the date for the annual convention for regular elections. So this new board that was just elected at a special member convention immediately set the date for potentially their own ousting isn't the word I want to use, but their own replacement, because they just set the annual convention like it was supposed to be. Meanwhile, the Shade Board set the date for their annual convention, and it happened to be both on the same weekend, which was last weekend. There were 26 people, I think, at the Shade Board's convention. There's been some dispute on that. Some people have said 31. There were 26 people who voted and what I'm going to mention. Whether there were 5 more people there, I don't know. And perhaps in chat someone can tell me how many people were at the Cordio Board's convention. The Cordio Board's convention was open again to everybody, including the purgers, who could have come and voted at that convention. The Shade convention was only open to their little group. the expelled members remained expelled and were not welcome to come and vote. And the story that Tara DeSisto has kept trying to feed to the JC was, we're going to let the members decide. And Mary Ruert so astutely said, how can you consider this fair whatsoever unless the 47 people who were expelled are allowed to vote at your convention? And of course, she got no answer from that from Tara. Tara then just proceeded to send at least 5 emails just ranting about me. Like bizarrely. Just like completely bizarre. She never answered Mary's question. So at the Shade Convention, there was a ballot, a motion, however you want to put it, that asked, should the 47 expelled people be reinstated? But of course, those people weren't even allowed. Like, talk about salting the soup. But what the Shade Board did, which that was bad enough. You can't expel them. You can't expel all the people you know would be the deciding votes on something you want to happen. And then when the vote goes exactly how you planned it to go, see? The will of the members. But the Shade Board did worse than that. The Shade Board distributed a propaganda piece against the 47 members prior to the vote, so that people who didn't know what the heck was even going on only got to hear one side of the story. And from what I understand in this dossier, like, some of the screenshots and stuff weren't even from people who were part of the expelled 47. Like, I can't make this stuff up. I cannot make this stuff up. Yeah, apparently the expelled 47 were responsible for tweets made by other people. Okay? This just gets more bizarre. And they're just like, all good. So now, where we're at is there are 2 groups claiming to be the legitimate board of Llama. You have the Shade Board and the Cordio Board. That's where we're at now, with 2 different sets of delegate lists that were sent to the National Party. This is very, very analogous to the principles that were at play in Delaware. Obviously, different fact pattern. But the underlying quote-unquote legal principles, I don't like calling them legal because we're not talking about law, but we're talking about, like, I guess, precedent and things like that within the Libertarian Party. And the Delaware Judicial Committee made it clear that when you had 2 groups, or at least 2 chairs, both claiming to be the legitimate chair, that the LNC cannot fulfill its duty under its own bylaws unless it makes a determination to the extent possible of who the legitimate chair is. And that such an action is not an abridgment of the autonomy of the affiliate, because the LNC can't do its job that it's required to do to interface with the affiliate without knowing who the board is. This is directly on point. I know the LNC did not like the Delaware decision. I didn't like the Delaware decision in my case. Welcome to the club. But the fact is, it is what it is. So, once this special convention happened and there was a new board, the split happened. You had the Cordio Board and the Shade Board. Region 8 representative Rich Bowen, along with the alternate, who's not allowed to put forth the motion, but, they were part, they co-presented it. They put forth a resolution to the LNC to recognize the results of the special member convention. In other words, saying Andrew Cordio and whatever successor board there may be, because the annual convention was coming up, were the legitimate board of Llama. And Whitney Bilyeu ruled that motion out of order. That motion is, in my opinion, patently not out of order in light of the Judicial Committee's ruling barely a month before. No, Tyler, it's not the same thing as Oregon. If I have time, I'm going to say the differences, but I've done it in other shows, and I really don't want to go off track. Let me just do it quickly. In Oregon, you had 2 competing state boards, and neither of them had a clean claim. And the only option the LNC should have exercised at that point was disaffiliation, because it was impossible, because none of them were correct. That was not the situation in Delaware, and that is not the situation in Massachusetts. So basically, if you take all these decisions together, the precedent and the marching orders for the LNC is if you have 2 or more credible claims, you need to determine if it is clear who is correct by looking at their own bylaws and the indisputable facts. If you can't determine it, and the actions taken in totality were so offensive to libertarian principles, the LNC's only choice is to disaffiliate, which they can't do 6 months prior to a convention. So that's the wrinkle. Here. But in this case, it is clear, just as clear as it was in Delaware. Different fact pattern. There's one issue that is a major difference, but I'm not going to get into that now, and I'll tell you why. So, the decision that is being appealed right now is not the failure to recognize the Cordio board. We haven't even gotten there yet. Whitney wouldn't even allow the vote to go forward. And here's where a lot of people are confused. They think tomorrow's hearing is going to be about which board is the correct board. That is not what tomorrow's hearing is about. And the LNC really obfuscated the issue. I cannot believe that multiple LNC members were giving an attaboy to Whitney for the response of the LNC to the petition, because the response to the petition was a complete red herring. And nobody should have been applauding it. That's my opinion. It was, let's put it this way, was it a badly written response? No, it was a well-written response to a question that wasn't asked. Like, if you ask me what I want for dinner, and I write a novel, about, the history of the exploration of Antarctica, it could be a great novel about the history of the exploration of Antarctica. But it's not relevant to the question you asked me. That's exactly what happened here. The LNC spent 6 pages going on and on about everything but the subject of this appeal. Let me give you a huge hint. Obviously, the Cordio board is relying on the precedent set by the Delaware decision. The word Delaware isn't mentioned once in the LNC's response. So they basically didn't answer the petition. We're going to be pulling up their response and taking a look at it. People were asking if there's any one hub for all of the filings. No, there isn't. I haven't had a chance to put them all up on LPedia. You can write the Judicial Committee and ask for copies. Maybe I can get them up on LPedia tomorrow. But unfortunately, this party, to me, there should be a dedicated spot on the lp.org site for Judicial Committee filings and things like that so that members can easily go and see them. But, excuse me, there isn't. There really isn't. So the hearing tomorrow is only on this issue. Was the Bowen resolution out of order? That's it. Whitney ruled it out of order. There was an appeal from the ruling of the chair. The ruling of the chair was sustained. That is what is being appealed right now. The facts of whether or not the Bowen motion should pass is completely irrelevant to the JC hearing tomorrow, with one exception. And I'll tell you about that exception in one moment. So anyone arguing over the merits of what I'll call the underlying motion, the Bowen resolution, it's a distraction. It's a red flag. It's has nothing to do with the hearing tomorrow. The only issue in dispute at the hearing tomorrow was if Whitney's ruling was correct. That's it. And the facts underlying the Bowen resolution are only relevant to the extent of asking the question, is there really a credible dispute as to who the legitimate leadership is? That's the only, not whether or not there's enough facts to decide. Just, is this like some like crazy homeless guy who's just claiming to be chair of Massachusetts that we should ignore type thing? Or is there actually a prima facie, and, you know, does it look like there actually is some meat here? That's the only thing that's relevant. And without a doubt, there is a legitimate dispute here, no matter what side you come on. This isn't some lunatic who just woke up out of bed one day and said, I'm the King of England, and everyone's supposed to go, Your Majesty. So the LNC's response is completely disrespectful to the over 200 members that signed the member appeal. They deserve for their LNC to actually deal with the question at hand and not go off in some diversion. So, hopefully, I just would like, before we look at some of the filings, is everything pretty clear to everyone right now, at least as to what the issues are tomorrow? The very narrow issue tomorrow. And I just want to see if there's any questions before we move on to just looking at a couple of the filings. While I'm giving time for questions, there was something I wanted to say at the beginning of the show that I'll probably do a whole other show on, but I wanted to get this out before I forget. I am not going to be on social media for the next month. There will be show notifications because my streaming software automatically posts it. If there are official things like town halls for the platform committee, I'll be posting there. But I personally am not going to be posting. Why? Because things get really, really ugly prior to national conventions, and I'm removing myself from that. I don't want the stress. I don't want the ugliness. So I'm practicing voluntarily disassociating from situations that I think are going to be very toxic. So you won't be seeing me on social media for a month, unless it's, again, one of those few exceptions. Also, I have a lot of work to do to get ready for Reno. The historical committee is going to have a table, so there's a lot of work to do to gather documents for that. So I just have a lot of work to do, and I'm not going to engage in this. Already today, and it wasn't against me, and I'm not going to say who it was against, like clockwork today, on a social media site, there was a gross character attack against somebody running for an LNC position. It wasn't me, and it wasn't Angela. It was actually somebody I wouldn't expect someone to attack. And I'm just like, it's gross. It's gross. And I'm sure they're coming for me. I'm sure they're coming for Angela. And I'm not going to dignify that kind of behavior with my presence. Plus, I put out all of my warts. There are no skeletons in my closet. What are they going to do? Say something that you guys already know? You know? If any question comes up that people have, they can find me on my channel and ask me. I'm not engaging in social media crap. I would encourage everyone to do that, to be honest with you. But that's, you will not be seeing me on social media. I've got too much to do. Too much productive things to do. Okay, let's start looking at some filings. Everyone said it seems pretty clear. I obviously don't think I need to say this. I obviously am very biased in this situation, and I am representing somebody who is involved. But the timeline, I hope, I'm not going to say I gave it in an unbiased fashion because I'm not unbiased, but I hope I didn't conveniently omit key facts to benefit my side, if that makes sense. I don't believe I did. And if someone thinks I did, please put it in chat, because my intent is to give an accurate timeline. It would not be doing you guys any favors to omit things like that. Kathy points out, let me address this. Hold on. The secret list emails are coming out tomorrow. They may think there's stuff there to hurt me. Oh, they definitely think there is, and there isn't. Something everyone should know about me is, anyone who's met me in person knows this, I'm the same person everywhere. If you have a problem with things I said on the public list, you're going to have the exact same problem with things I said on the secret list, because unlike some people, I'm not a different person depending upon whether I have an audience or not. One thing that's going to come out in the secret list emails tomorrow is you're going to see LNC members are different, some of them, in public than they are when they think no one's watching. So there's absolutely no, of course, I'm sure somebody's going to try to spin things that way. And if someone has a question, I'll address it on my show. I'm certainly going to be addressing the secret list emails in general on my show, because I want to point out that the very fact that they have a ton of emails to release shows they haven't been following their own rules on executive session. Like, this whole issue damns this LNC. And I could tell you, there are some I'm dying to read. I'm dying to read their secret discussions about my appeal. I was the secretary elected by the delegates. The LNC had no authority to discuss that in secret. You all should have been able to see everything that was being planned after I filed my appeal. So I'm looking forward to reading those to show how the LNC was hiding from you, the way they were looking to disenfranchise the 50-something% of you that voted for me, and the people who donated. I think I had over $5,000 raised. I'm dying to see the secret emails about the Delaware appeal. I'm dying to see the secret emails about the Massachusetts appeal. What you're going to see in the secret emails, though, you're going to see Richard Longstreth throwing a complete fit when I said, you'll see my constant complaints. Why is this on the secret list? And in the beginning, I have copies of all the secret emails, Kathy. If they redact something that should be public, I'm going to release it. Just so you know. They're not going to get away with that. Or at least I have most of them. Because my Gmail box, I was consolidating everything. I don't need to get into the technical details. I have a great many of those emails. And if they redact something that should be public, that's about me, I'm not going to be violating other people's confidences. The new LNC can worry about that. But if they try to redact something in a way to make me look bad, you can bet your sweet ass I'll be releasing the full emails. If they don't do that, then I'll just wait for the new LNC to have justice. But what you are going to see in the secret emails is my constant complaints. Why is this on the secret list? And you'll see in the beginning, I used to just auto-forward it to the public list. I'd be like, nope, this isn't secret, and I'd forward it to the public list. And you will see Richard, and I think Susan, chewing me out over that. Saying that I just could not do that. So, you'll see that. I'm more curious as to the secret list discussions that have happened since my illegitimate removal. Because all of a sudden, they're not even telling you the subject lines anymore. Have you noticed that? I don't think they think they have anything on me, because I think they know I'm the same person. Again, if you didn't like me before, you're still not going to like me. Like, nothing's going to change. I think they have something on Joshua. That's my personal opinion. But we'll go through some of this on my show. I intended upon doing that. The only email that I'm curious if they're going to redact that makes them look really bad is an email chain that is talking about my complaints about being assaulted at the 2016 convention. And multiple LNC members basically told me I wasn't victiming right. Well, why didn't you say something to this person? And why didn't you do this? And why didn't you do that? Basically victim blaming. I'm very curious if they're going to release that. If they don't, I'm not. I said everything I wanted to say about that on an episode called The LNC Needs to Hear a Who. I really just, I'm over it. I don't want to relive it. I'm sure they're going to release all the emails where because I thought I was amongst people that were friends of mine, even if we disagreed on issues, I'm sure they're going to release to try to embarrass me the emails where I talked about the extreme emotional toll their attempts at removing me were taking on me. But that should be no surprise to any of you. I discussed that publicly on my channel. That was one of the darkest periods of my life. I am not embarrassed or ashamed of being open about suffering from depression. I think not enough of us talk about mental health. So I am sure that those very private, intimate emails that I thought I was emailing just to friends, telling them how badly they were hurting me, will be released to try to embarrass me. I am not embarrassed to have had the very human experience of going through a very, very dark time when you've been backstabbed by friends. And that's it. That's really all I think that will come out. That was a very, very dark time for me. And I expressed that both on my channel. In fact, that was one of the reasons I got removed, was for some of the things I said, where I expressed on my channel how badly, like that these people were being so reckless. Like, I don't even want to relive it. We'll deal with it when it comes out. I'm just saying that's all that's going to be there. It's going to be very difficult for me to relive that period of time through these emails. But there's nothing in there that's going to, quote unquote, harm me. In like politically, if that's what you mean. Harm me like in my feels and make me relive trauma. Yeah. I honestly think for some people that was the entire purpose. And you want to know what? I'm a big girl. I'm going to pull up my knickers and deal with it. That's politics. Am I looking forward to it? No. But there's no dirt on me. There's no dirt on me. All you're going to see in those emails is a human being in some really deep pain. Oof. Over betrayal by friends. That's all you're going to see. I'd rather not relive it. But you want to know what? What man means for evil, God means for good. And perhaps there's someone out there that needs to see someone in politics just being a raw human being with real emotions. They hurt me. They hurt me bad. Let's get back to the Massachusetts appeal. Alrighty, 1 second. Thank you very much, Joe Bowers. I appreciate it. First, what we're going to look at briefly, because this is going on a while, I really thank you all for spending this time with me. And again, I'm more than happy to answer any questions. We're first going to look at briefly the appeal as filed by the members and by Andrew Cordia. And sorry for that. It's still raw. What happened to me is still very raw. Okay, 1 second. Let me pull this up. Okay. I'm going to have to... No, I don't want to remove the chat. Shit. I don't really... You don't need my face. Let me see if I can remove that somehow. It's not letting... There we go. Okay, so you don't need my face. I want to see if I can blow this... Okay. Alright, you guys should be able to see the filing. We're just going to go through it briefly. So this is the initial appeal filed April... Whoa, shit. It didn't stay on one page. Oh, well. I'm I'm going to have to turn off the chat so it's not covering up the appeals. I'll put the chat back up in a minute. Let me just find that screen where I can hide. Holy crap. I'm one of those people who always has way too many windows open. Okay. The chat is hidden. All right, now you guys can see. So, as you can see, in the appeal, it goes through the procedural background, which basically talks about the various motions that were put before the LNC, including, finally, on page 3 there, on page 4, the Bowen resolution, which then led to Whitney ruling it out of order. So the first 5 pages is just a procedural background, with the timeline giving, just showing that there is a credible dispute. But really, where it gets into our the actual argument. I say "our" because I am representing one of the party. But the part where it gets into what the actual appeal about is pages 6 and 7, and 7's only a half page. So basically, this appeal is pretty simple. It's 1 page. Which I'm going to read out. On March 23rd, John Phillips raised a point of order claiming that the motion was in violation of the bylaws of the National Libertarian Party, without specifying a particular bylaw, but rather just vague inferences about autonomy and interference. JJ, I don't have a link to this. This was on my desktop. I'm going to try to put it up on Lpedia, but I don't have a link at this time. This is my personal copy. Contrary to the long-standing custom of the LNC, in which fully sponsored email ballots proceed onward pending a ruling of the chair so that time is not wasted and the clock run out, no ballot was ever started in this matter. On March 24th, the chair ruled that the Bowen Forward resolution was out of order as violating Article 5.5 of the bylaws of the National Libertarian Party, which was appealed by Joshua Smith, for which ballot number blah 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 was opened to determine whether or not to sustain the ruling of the chair. That ballot ended on April 1st, with the chair's ruling being sustained with a vote count of 9 to 7 to 1. So not overwhelmingly by any stretch of the imagination, leading to this appeal of that decision. So it makes it very clear that this appeal is just about the sustaining of the ruling of the chair. Considering that issues of delegate selection and other convention activities hinge upon the recognition of the rightful chair of the affiliate so that the LNC and credentialing can proceed, it is imperative that any and all delays, intentional or not, cease, and this matter be disposed of with all due haste. Precedent. This Judicial Committee recently made a decision in the case of the Delaware affiliate, which is directly on point in this matter. In the Delaware matter, the Judicial Committee found that determination of the rightful chair of an affiliate in the event of a dispute, if such a determination was clear and possible, was not an abridgment of the autonomy of an affiliate. It was, in fact, an absolutely necessary task for the LNC to undertake in order to fulfill both its duties and honor the autonomous decisions of an affiliate. Once this LNC is made aware of a credible dispute that has at least some indicia of good faith basis, it has an undeniable duty to its affiliate and to the party at large to undertake such an exercise. With the facts before the LNC right now, there are 2 entities both claiming to be the legitimate llama, with 2 different sets of leadership. The LNC has an absolute duty to at least attempt to determine which of them, if any, is correct in order to properly credential delegates at the upcoming convention at a bare minimum. I see there's a typo, and that's my fault, by the way. And that such a determination is not in violation of the bylaws of the National Libertarian Party. Number 3, prima facie evidence that there is a legitimate dispute that must be heard by the LNC and it is within their jurisdiction. This is the only part of the actual appeal, without dealing with background, that mentions the resolution. And it doesn't get into the correctness of the assertions of the resolution. The assertions laid out in the Bowen Forward resolution, along with the supporting timeline and documentation, also attached here too, give at least a reasonable basis to support that there is a legitimate dispute that needs to be examined by the LNC to determine if it is possible to come to a clear conclusion about the identity and leadership of the Massachusetts affiliate. That's a very modest claim right there. All it said is that it's obvious there is a dispute. That's all the appeal said about the resolution. Number 3, undeniable jurisdiction. If the LNC is continuing to recognize the incorrect affiliate and leadership by its refusal to examine the facts at hand, there is a constructive disaffiliation of the Massachusetts affiliate, and it would be entitled to an automatic appeal. The petitioners believe that is the case here. However, in the abundance of caution, the requisite number of signatures of the National Sustaining Membership are also affixed here too and joinder as an appeal of a decision of the LNC by the membership. The sustainment of a ruling of the chair is a decision of the LNC as defined by RONR 1.6. The actions of the LNC contravene its duties under the bylaws to recognize its affiliate, which require it to interface with its proper leadership, as detailed in this Judicial Committee's decision in the recent Delaware appeal. Impacted bylaws include the entirety of Section 5. If the LNC is giving data services, directing potential members, directing potential donors, and recognizing lists of delegates submitted by any other than the rightful leadership, it is violating its own duties to its affiliate under the National Libertarian Party bylaws. And here's the requested ruling, or relief. That the sustainment of the ruling of the chair on April 1st was improper, and that the motion put forth by Region 8 Representative Rich Bowen, as noted above, is in order, which must be heard immediately by the LNC at an electronic meeting to be heard within 7 days of an order of the Judicial Committee. And that time frame was put so that proper notice could be given. If you're wondering where that came up with, why it was 7 days, because 5 days notice is required. So it gives them a couple days to agree on a date. Or via an electronic email ballot to be started within 2 days of an order of the Judicial Committee. Okay, so I think that's pretty clear. There was an amendment to this appeal which explicitly named the LNC as an interested party, because in my opinion there was a game being played where the LNC claimed, well, we're not bound by any decision because we weren't named explicitly as an interested party. Ms. Mattson set the record straight on this and said that the rules of appellate procedure appended to the national bylaws give the Judicial Committee authority to recognize other interested parties, even if they're not specifically named, as interested parties, because it's expected that ordinary members, not lawyers, are filing these appeals, and they don't want technicalities, basically, which is what the LNC tried to do. So, the LNC was notified at the time of the filing of this appeal that although they were not specifically named as an interested party, the JC considers them an interested party. I know they've claimed otherwise, but Ms. Mattson has set it straight. But in the abundance of caution, Chair Ruart of the JC said, okay, I'm going to take it on good faith that you guys were confused as to whether or not you were an interested party. It's now crystal clear. Everyone understands you're an interested party, and that's why this hearing was delayed. The LNC is trying to run out the clock, in my opinion. Okay, so we're not going to look at the amendment in which it was made clear that the LNC is, in fact, an interested party. What we want to look at is the response of the LNC now. Let me find it. And that is on the LNC list. I know I uploaded it. Where did it go? One second. For some reason, it didn't get uploaded. Well, let me pull it off of the list because it is on the LNC list. Response. LNC response to the appeal regarding llama. Okay, I'm going to download it. It is on the LNC list that you guys can take a look at. Okay, let me pull this up. Just give me 1 second. And share my screen. Make it full screen. Here we go. So, it's a 6-page long document. They give an introduction and factual background the same way the petitioners did. But it goes beyond that, kind of. It goes on to start arguing about the merits of the resolution. Now, hopefully you all can understand now that that's a complete red herring. The merits of the resolution are not before the Judicial Committee. Like, for instance, in the second paragraph, the resolution does not address the impact it would have. This isn't the issue before the Judicial Committee right now. Whitney did not rule the resolution out of order because the resolution did not address whatever impact it would have. Whitney ruled the resolution out of order by saying that they weren't allowed to examine this issue because it would violate affiliate autonomy. So, most of the things in the LNC response have nothing to do with this appeal. Same thing here in this last paragraph. According to the petitioners, the LNC not only has the power, but the duty to consider and vote upon this resolution. And then it goes on to talk about the resolution itself, which isn't part of the current appeal. It says, notably, the resolution fails to cite any provision of the LP bylaws that confers such authority upon the LNC. It's not required to. Like, she's now addressing, and I say she because the only signatory to this reply is Whitney, what she thinks are deficiencies of the resolution. It's irrelevant. That isn't why you ruled it out of order. The only relevance that the resolution has here is whether or not it's in order, not whether you think the resolution's well formed, not whether or not you think the resolution should pass, not whether or not you think the grammar is good. The only thing that is at issue is the resolution in order? Whitney ruled it out of order for a very specific reason. She can't now add to that reason. Okay, let's continue. Okay, then it goes on arguing about Judicial Committee jurisdiction. Okay, that could be potentially relevant. She's arguing that Andrew Cordio doesn't have automatic standing for constructive disaffiliation. Okay, that's a legitimate argument, which is why the appeal was filed both as a member appeal and as an automatic appeal. So that paragraph could be true and the appeal is still fine. So That's what most of that deals with. So they go on to concede that if the JC has jurisdiction over the matter, it must be pursuant to a member appeal. And the LNC does not dispute that the chair's ruling is a decision for purposes of LP Bylaws 8.2. What is interesting is the appeal is actually of the sustaining of the ruling of the chair, not of the chair's ruling to begin with. So the LNC fundamentally misunderstands the appeal. I don't think it really matters. I'm just pointing this out. I don't think a mere ruling of the chair would be a decision of the LNC subject to appeal by members, by the way. I disagree with Whitney here. If there was a ruling of the chair and it was never appealed from, there's no decision of the LNC. So she fundamentally misunderstands the grounds for the appeal. And then goes here and admits, accordingly, the only issue properly before the Judicial Committee is narrow. Whether the chair's ruling, the resolution out of order, contravenes any specific bylaw or bylaws. Right. That is all the appeal stated. And it's funny that she admits this here. Nobody denies that. We agree that is the issue, whether or not it was out of order as violating the bylaws. But after admitting that, she goes on to talk in detail about the resolution. The resolution hasn't been decided upon by the LNC and is irrelevant. So we're starting here towards the beginning of page 3. And then going through here on page 4. Her opinion on the resolution is irrelevant. And then it goes on, and she gets back on topic and argues why her ruling was valid. Okay, so these few paragraphs are fine. But then it goes on, the LNC do not authorize the LNC to take the action contemplated by the resolution. That was not part of her original ruling. So she goes on again criticizing the resolution for page 5 and then back through here. So the majority of this response is issues that she has with the resolution. Very little of the LNC's response dealt with the actual appeal, except merely to reassert the arguments it made in its Delaware response that the Judicial Committee ruled against. So it basically just repeated arguments that have already been rejected by the Judicial Committee in a different case. I think the members were owed better than that. Okay, let me go back here. That is on the LNC list. Now I want to, there was a reply to the LNC's response filed. I believe that was filed today, and I'd like to show that to you. And that will bring you fully up to speed as to where we are at. Let me see if I can find that. JC reply. Okay. Download. Okay, let me open this up, and then I will show it to you guys. 1 second. Hopefully everyone's following along. Please let me know if you have any questions about where we are at. Okay, let me share my screen. Okay, this is just the header. The meat of it's right here. Petitioner Cordio's reply to the LNC response to initial petition. Number one, the LNC spends the majority of its response arguing the underlying motion. While the petitioner certainly believes that the merits of the underlying motion that was ruled out of order by the party chair and sustained by the LNC favor his and the petitioning member's case, this appeal is not about that motion, but about the very limited ruling prohibiting that motion from even being heard. In fact, the petitioner would argue that it is highly improper for the party chair, who is the only signatory, to be arguing about the merits of the underlying motion that were not part of the ruling that is the subject of this appeal. The full LNC has had no vote on the underlying motion, and if the Judicial Committee finds for the petitioners in this appeal, it would be highly inappropriate for the party chair to preside over that motion, as she has shown herself to be a partisan in the LNC response and in her decision to attend the convention of the Massachusetts respondents in her official capacity, thus blatantly taking a side. Thus, since the underlying motion is not the subject of this appeal, the petitioner will not be replying to the LNC's response that goes afield of the issues at hand. If the underlying motion is heard and lost, the petitioner is fully prepared to file and argue those issues in a second appeal. Number two, the recent Judicial Committee ruling in the Libertarian Party of Delaware is directly on point. The response of the LNC did not address the actual issue at all, and that is this Judicial Committee's prior ruling that when there is a dispute as to the identity of the proper board and chair of an affiliate, it is the LNC's duty to investigate the matter to see if there's a clear answer so that it can perform the duties it owes to its affiliates under its own bylaws. And such an investigation is not a violation of an affiliate's autonomy, which interpretation would render the rest of the national bylaws absolutely absurd. In short, the LNC's response simply repeated the same failed arguments it used in the Delaware matter. Number three, the national bylaws make the Judicial Committee the final arbiter of items under its authority between conventions. The LNC's behavior since the Delaware decision has shown utter disrespect for this Judicial Committee and the authority granted it by the membership. It is understandable that not every decision will be popular. The remedy at that point is to submit the matter to the delegates at the next national convention. However, this LNC has been abusing its position of power and party resources, i.e., the LNC business list, to defame this committee and its chair. While individual LNC members should be free to express their personal opinions on their own personal spaces, it is a gross abuse of privilege to use party resources to do so, and such conduct should not be rewarded. Okay. Now, note that the Cordio reply granted to the LNC rights that they did not grant me. The right to have my own personal opinion on my own personal spaces. It's funny that they think it's just fine for themselves to be doing that right now, though that's part of the reason they removed me. But I'm not a hypocrite. I would like them to be consistent with their own principles, but the fact is, I do believe that individual LNC members do not lose the right to their own personal opinion, and they're free to express it on their own social media as much as they want. And boy, have some of them done so. And that's fine. I do so. But to be using party resources that we pay for to imply that Mary Rohr is less than truthful, and that the Judicial Committee, and they don't imply that the Judicial Committee is rogue, they've directly been called rogue using the LNC business list. That is completely and utterly inappropriate. And I bet we're going to get some juicy defamation of the JC and Mary Rohr on the secret email list. I get it. I get not liking a decision of the JC. I think their decision in my case sucked. I say it on my own personal resources. I don't say it using party resources. But rules for me, but not for thee, apparently. All right, everyone. This has been a long show. Well, I guess not for me. We're coming up on an hour and 45 minutes. I'd like to see if there are any questions about anything I'm having to do with this. So I'm going to give a few minutes for this and do some grifting while I'm waiting. Again, what I have left to get for Reno is to send out a mailer. And I think I almost have all of the funds to do that. To be honest with you, I won't know until I see the delegate list and how many alternates there are, which hasn't been published yet. And I need to print some signs and just campaign literature for convention. I'll be able to get you guys an exact number, I think, of what I might be a little short on that for. And again, none of that is absolutely necessary. If for some reason I don't raise the money to do that, it's not like I can't run if I don't have proper campaign literature at convention. It's just, that's really what I should have to educate delegates. But it's not the end of the world if it doesn't happen. But if you can assist in this last little bit of printing and things I need to do, I would truly, truly appreciate it. But in any event, the show must go on. And I do thank Kathy for her donation that allows for some swag, which obviously is going to be free at my table for as long as supplies last. Mike Seebeck, it's a surprise, so we're not saying what his swag is. He donated some swag, so I thank both of them for that. And I don't really think there was any other news that I had. Oh, I know what I wanted to say, other than I'm losing my voice, so I do need to go very soon. Let me take a drink of soda. I'm sorry. I wanted to say, in addition to me not being on social media for the next month, I'm also pretty much going to ignore the LNC. Unless they do something really, really egregious that would be violating people's rights at convention. We're in their last month. Typical bad behavior, typical mistakes, typical issues. To be honest with you, I'm just going to ignore it. So, I hate saying you're not going to hear much about the LNC, because whenever I say that, they're like, hold my beer. We're going to do something really terrible that you can't ignore. I'm hoping they don't, and I'm hoping we can catch up on some history and do some convention education. Plus, I want to transition this channel to what do I envision for it post-Reno. And what do I envision for this channel post-Reno? I'm going to do a separate show on this probably tomorrow. But I'm going to say it now because not everybody will watch the separate show. What I envision for this channel post-Reno is back to mostly history. I will still talk about LNC things, but I'll do it in the way before JBH went corrupt. You guys may remember immediately after electronic meetings, I would invite other LNC members that were on the opposite side of votes with me to come on the show, and we would discuss our votes in a friendly manner, explaining to people, letting people ask us questions. I would like to get back to things like that, to discussing LNC decisions, but not in like a the drama girls type thing, because I'm super, super hopeful that we're going to have a functional, non-corrupt LNC after Reno. And yeah, there'll be disagreements, but that's life on a board. There's always going to be some disagreements, and I think we can discuss them non-dramatically and having multiple points of view. So in order to transition back to that, I would really just like to ignore them for a month and do other things. Maybe we'll do some of the older content I used to do, where I would like do what am I trying to think of? Like more commentary on some other YouTube channels. Like maybe we'll look at some Vosh videos, or maybe we'll look at some Jimmy Snow videos, you know, and interact with political commenters that aren't libertarians, and just do some back and forth on that, which I used to do a lot of. That ever since the LNC imploded, that this really has just been a very libertarian party-centric channel, I mean, and I really would like to get back into more general politics. So unless they do something really, really egregious, I mean, we're going to deal with the secret emails, but that's about it. This Massachusetts appeal will still be ongoing, so we'll talk about that. But I've had people who want me to explain to them the convention rules on voting for bylaws and platform. I'd like to do that sort of content, more educational stuff. Okay, my voice is completely gone now. So I hope you all have a completely awesome night. And I doubt I'll have... Will I have a show tomorrow? Maybe I will. There's a platform committee meeting tomorrow, so I might not. Thank you all. And again, peace out. Let me find my closing sequence because I accidentally deleted it. I'm such a doofus sometimes. 1 second. Let me find my closing sequence. Here we go. Bye-bye. Hi! I'm still on the screen.
Given, that's how we live it. Don't be mad at the system, it's simply how we've existed. I hear a lot of people talking like they politicians, or choose to be an accountant because it's safe in a business. Not